And there's the restart. Hello, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. This is the final part of the Dignity series. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're doing well. So, today let's talk about imperfection and the grace of crumbling, crashing out. All right, so let's go ahead and start with a tune in though for this one. So, go ahead and rub your palms together, close your eyes. And we'll do a Kundalini yoga style tune in. Bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, exhale. And we're going to tune in with the Adi mantra Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Repeat it 3 times. Inhale to begin. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Inhale deeply, hold the breath, pull the root lock. All right, go ahead and exhale, shake out your hands. Okay, so while this is not necessarily a Kundalini Yoga meditation, I did want to set the intention with connecting to the teachers that have come before us as a more solid anchor, largely because this is one of the things that I'm working incredibly hard to heal. So, the main premise here is the struggle within crashing out, losing control, crumbling, right? We start to doubt ourselves. We see this crumble as a failure when everything feels like it's going wrong. When we feel like we're doing our meditation wrong, we're not responding right, everything feels more amplified. All of the quote unquote wrong things feel more amplified, right? So I wanted to speak to this directly because this is a pretty big part of meditation, especially when you're first starting, it's really highlighted. And then as you continue, this is based on my experience. As I continued, I noticed that I had less patience, less grace for those moments to continue because they will. When you start to come up on new issues, that cycle is going to repeat, right? So connecting to that space in between from where you crash out, that heartbeat, that blink, that breath before the action, right? The You start swearing, you get up and quit, you pull out of the pose, you flip off a driver. Okay, it's that little bit of space between the crash out and the action. That's the dignity that we're connecting to, because it is dignity. It's you going, all right, well, yeah, everything feels wrong. Nothing seems to be going right. I got up and walked off when I felt frustrated. I started swearing. I flipped somebody off, whatever the case is, right? So, this is a way for us to connect to, first up, some self compassion, because those moments are worthy of compassionate understanding, because these are the parts of us that are afraid, the parts that feel worthless, the parts that want to quit. These are the parts that are trying to protect us from being hurt, right? And this is a learned behavior. It's, where we're taught that crashing out, crumbling, failing, making mistakes, that these are, quote unquote mistakes or failures or problems, yada, yada, yada. So this is a way to reframe it as a lesson, an opportunity, a moment of compassion, right? So we're going to reframe this lens. Instead of seeing the crumble, the crash out as an ending, we're going to see it as I alluded to earlier, a part of the cycle, because these moments will continue, right? Because the lesson is still there. They continue until the lesson has been learned, as frustrating as that is. It's also a necessary release. So I wanted to make sure to call that out, to speak to that. And the point here is in those moments where we're crumbling, however that shows up for us, right? Day to day, moment to moment, however it shows up, it's a space for us to hold our own hands and to reach within ourselves for ourselves. That's the dignity, right? Okay, so for this one, I want you to think of a moment where you crashed out and you didn't stop in that space, that breath, that blink, whatever it was, because there was a space. We just weren't aware of it, right? Or we didn't heed that advice. I have done that so many times. And it's even more galling now when I can see it and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to take that opportunity. It's really hard for me to have compassion for those moments. So that's why I felt this was very important to take a moment to show ourselves compassion after the fact so that we can learn to start to integrate this. Okay. So go ahead and close your eyes. You can lay down for this. You can be seated in easy pose, full or partial lotus, on a chair, on the floor, on your cushion, however feels right for you. But you do want to be in an upright posture if you're in the meditative pose. If you're laying down, make sure that you're firmly supported, okay? And I want you to pull up a memory of where you crashed out. Now, this again, just like all the past ones, this is not a severe one. Okay, we're starting with the lighter, easier to connect to thoughts, memories, past experiences. Okay, this is not to re traumatize. Please don't pick one that was super heavy or super charged. That is not the goal here. These are the day to day moments where we can start to actually apply this, so we can actually start to engage this. Okay, the heavier stuff, that takes a little bit more work. I just, to reiterate, I am not a licensed therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, so that's not a realm I'm prepared or qualified to step into. This is the day to day. Okay, that does not mean that your day to day is any less important than the bigger, heavy handed moments in your life. Okay. The day to day is where we really start to apply this to know that we can, right? And then you can start to apply it to the heavier, deeper, more traumatic aspects with a qualified professional, of course. Now, go ahead and pick up your moment, wherever that is, day to day moment where you crashed out, you crumbled, however that looked for you. Okay, preferably one where you're aware of that space that was there. If you don't have one where you're aware of that space, that's perfectly fine. Just pick one that is still irking you. Okay, one that's still, you're like, oh, I really wish I had handled that differently. Okay, pull that up. Now we're going to start at the beginning. This is not, again, I want you to give yourself a little bit of space here. Okay, so when you pull this memory up, don't step back into it fully. I want you to kind of just glide alongside it so that you can see if you can catch that moment where you could have made a different choice, or you could have really deepened that breath to anchor to yourself. Okay, and if you can't, please don't stress out. This is a practice, right? It takes time to build this up. It takes time to become aware of that, to be able to step into it. And as I said earlier, sometimes even when you are aware of it, you still miss it. Okay, so again, this is not about stressing you out. This is about becoming more aware, being able to step into that breath, and then really deepen your breath so that you do not respond in a way that's not aligned with your authentic self. Okay, all right, so go ahead and pull up that moment. And we're going to play it. I'm going to be largely silent through this because I'm going to be working on my own. Um, so you can go as quickly or as slowly as you'd like. Do it a couple of times. Really connect to how that bit of breathing space looks and feels within you. Okay. Just to reiterate, I don't feel I stated this clearly. Please give yourself loving kindness here. This is not about beating yourself up or any of that. Okay, this is not to rehash what we've labeled quote unquote wrong. Okay, this is about connecting to that space as an act of self care, self compassion. Okay, so something you could say to yourself as you go through this is, yep, I understand that I feel ashamed, I feel hurt, I feel disappointed that I missed this opportunity. I appreciate you for showing up and teaching me how to do better, or I'm here to do better. I'm here to learn to be better, to step into this space more effectively. But make or no, and make sure that you're adding a supportive sentence to this as well. Okay, this is about loving kindness. This is about connecting to that space. You don't do that with abuse, right? So please give yourself some loving kindness. This is about grace and compassion, just to really clarify. And if you feel it's getting intense, deepen your breath, hold it, like freeze where you're at, the image in your head. Inhale nice and deep. Exhale nice and fully. Since it's not about getting lost in the thought. And then something else that I do is with some of the breathing spaces, I treat it more as a friend, and I'll grab a hold of their hand and say, thank you so much for showing up in that moment. I'm sorry that I did not honor your request. I did not heed your advice. Something to that effect. I'm here now. Thank you for showing up. Please continue to show up. But I grab a hold of my own hand as an act of compassion and support and, again, loving kindness, to reaffirm to myself that I see what I missed. I appreciate you for still showing up. Bear with me as I continue to learn this process and continue to do better. Because if you think about this in relationship to any other relationship that you have, right? How do you feel when someone that you're speaking with, someone that you care about, um, when they make a mistake and you feel frustrated with that, how would you feel with the different approaches, right? Would you feel better if they grabbed your hand, or at least, extended their hand to you as an acknowledgement? Hey, I appreciate that feedback you gave me. I'm sorry I wasn't able to hear it when you gave it. I am listening now. I am, versus just a shutdown. We're never going to bring it up again, right? So apply that, what would work for you or how you would appreciate being approached, and use that same thing towards yourself. That's the bridge we're trying to build here. Again, loving kindness. Founded in loving kindness. And then we're just going to spend a little bit more time connecting to this space within us. Couple more deep breaths here. And you don't need to try to force that gap open. You can just simply acknowledge where it is and just connect to the resonance that's there. Connect to how it feels, where it is in your body. Maybe there's a color, a sound, a smell. And then for the last couple breaths, I want you to allow that feeling of compassion, of support, of understanding, of loving kindness to just flow up. Okay. And then you can still have your eyes closed and just take a few deep breaths, let the memory go, and just allow your body to feel how it feels right now. Bring your focus to your breath. Nice long deep breath. Nice long deep exhale. And something else I just kind of want to highlight is true dignity is not the absence of a fall. It's not the absence of a crumble. It's not the absence of a crash out. It's the grace with which we meet ourselves on the floor. It's how we treat ourselves each time we fall, right? It's what we're saying to ourselves. It's that breath in between. It's also the refusal to abandon ourselves in our own moments of deepest doubt or deepest need. This is the heart of resilience, our ability to show up for ourselves every single time. And I'm not talking about bootstrapping it, I'm not talking about powering through or, just continuing to go at all costs. That's not resilience necessarily, right? This is about when we reach a point where we either fall, we just go, you know what, I'm done, and we park it, or we crash out hard, we crumble hard. It's this space where we sit within ourselves and we actually offer love and kindness, we offer support, we offer compassion. That's true dignity, to show up for ourselves with kindness, with grace, with understanding, right? That other people struggle, we give ourselves that same loving kindness. Now, it's going to be more challenging if you're not able to offer others compassion or grace when they struggle, right? So, this may be a practice that you need to continue building for a while before you notice a shift. You get real time practice then in that instance. Okay, so give yourself patience, give yourself loving kindness, compassion, understanding in those moments, especially if this isn't something that you were necessarily taught to do, to offer for yourself, right? A lot of us weren't. So just keep that in mind as you continue forward. That's also part of building a relationship with yourself, building a meditative practice, building a spiritual practice, right? Whichever label you want to use, it all leads to the same place. You're building a relationship with yourself. So I just wanted to highlight that. This series was meant to be as a starting point to see where you can go from there. This is about building dignity within ourselves, reconnecting to our dignity inherent within ourselves, and the different ways that it can show up, right? Different key points that are vital for a healthy connection to our authentic self. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this series helpful. I hope you found today's meditation helpful. Feel free to let me know what worked really well for you, or if there was anything you felt left out that you'd like to see made into a meditation. And of course, again, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.